Hello to everybody, and today for my comic book review, I'm doing Avengers Hawkeye. So this is like Hawkeye, like very early Hawkeye issues. And I gotta say, this is definitely a really good early, like, Hawkeye stories I've ever read. I'm glad that Hawkeye was able to finally get his own solo series back in the 80s. And I even got to read, like, his first issue, which is in this book. So I'm going to be discussing it with Hawkeye appearing in the recent Lego special. I thought it'd be a good time to talk about this. So, the first 4 miniseries issues is Hawkeye teaming up with Mockingbird. So, Mockingbird is from S.H.I.E.L.D. She's like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She had a rough life. We actually learned her origin, which was quite refreshing. We learned that she had a rough life, and then eventually she was trained, and she signed up for some experiments, and then that's how she was able to become Mockingbird. She was originally called Huntress, but I guess because of DC having their own Huntress, they had to change her name to Mockingbird. So we got 2 versions of Huntress in both Marvel and DC. We should have the characters, team up if they ever do the Marvel DC crossover, which I think they recently did with the Deadpool Batman comic, which I'd love to check out. But once we do get to Hawkeye, he's basically living a kind of a good life. He's got his own jet. He's taking down the bad guys. He's got all his trick arrows. There's even a page like that shows like all his arrows, which ones are called which: the acid arrow, the boomerang arrow, the trick shot arrow. Just so many arrows Hawkeye just names. He just has it all because he's a good expert when it comes to archery. But when he is using his bow and arrow, when he loses the bow, it gets taken by a goon. He tries to use it, but because the person doesn't know how to use it, Hawkeye's able to get back the bow and arrow and still be a badass. But what surprised me most about this book is that Hawkeye used to be a villain. You're probably surprised by that. But I don't know, was he really a villain? When he went up against Iron Man, he basically wanted to be a hero, but once he met Black Widow after stopping a robbery, he basically was going after Iron Man just so he can protect Black Widow, and he was like that for 2 more issues until he showed up again. I learned about after watching an origin video about Hawkeye where he meets up at Avengers Mansion. He said that he didn't want to become a villain. He got a little over his head, but he decided that he wants to be a hero. And that's where we do see him at in this Hawkeye issues. He kind of just reflects how he was basically mistaken for being a villain when going up against Iron Man, but now he's on the right side. And we actually do learn his origin, like his childhood, like I said, with his origin. Like, he grew up with a rough life with his parents not being good towards him and his brother. Hawkeye has a brother named Barney. I think he did show up in one of my favorite Hawkeye comic books of all time. Hawkeye, I think it's called The Little Hits, I'm pretty sure. Those comics I definitely plan on reviewing soon on this channel. But the 2 escaped, but they basically joined the circus, and they were part of the attire for a while until Hawkeye decided to become the hero that he is. But he's basically on the run with Mockingbird once he goes up against an organization that's committing various crimes. And we get a bunch of wacky villains in these 4 issues. We see a villain called Screwball that throws a bunch of balls, literally, that have powers in it. It just slows Hawkeye down, and Hawkeye goes on a goose chase against him. And he does go up against Mockingbird until the 2 do team up, and they start to have feelings for each other, which I thought was cute. So I feel like Hawkeye and Mockingbird are an underrated couple. Usually when you think of Hawkeye with couples, you think it's Black Widow or something. or his wife in the MCU, Laura Barton. But it would have been cool to see MCU Hawkeye meet that world's Mockingbird, since I did think she did show up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and some people think that show is not canon to the MCU, but it probably is. But basically, the two eventually get captured after going on a train heist when trying to track down one of the villains. They are locked in a room that's where they cannot escape at all, and they're basically forced to fight each other to the death. But Hawkeye can't resist to fight his lover, and this becomes a plot point in the book where Hawkeye, if you don't know, Hawkeye's actually deaf. He becomes half deaf when one of the villains ends up using like an ear shattering device that causes his ears to become deaf after Mockingbird gets knocked out during their almost mind control fight. But basically, we get this iconic shot of like Hawkeye in a coffin. The villain's plan is to have Hawkeye get killed, and the Avengers and other superheroes will go out looking for him. And they plan to use this device that causes the heroes to fight each other, but Hawkeye's able to break free from it and use the security cam to find a way to knock it out, and then Hawkeye passes out. But the goons pick them up, and Hawkeye's able to wake up, and he's able to take out the goons with his bow and arrow when he gets them back. And he's basically able to defeat Screwball and his other henchmen. Yeah, but Hawkeye thinks he went a little too hard on Mockingbird. He's afraid he almost killed her, but it turns out she's alive. Thank goodness. And the two sit in basically in a pool of love as they become a couple. So yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite Hawkeye issues, for sure. I think it really sets up the character really well. And it shows that he wants to be his own man, because he also got encountered by Captain America, who asked if he needed help. But Hawkeye was like, nah, I'm good. But he wanted to prove that he can be his own hero and not have to be overshadowed by the Avengers. And I feel that kind of pays homage to Hawkeye, since he never gets much appreciation. He gets overshadowed by the other Avengers all the time. Like when we think of the Avengers, we think of Iron Man, Hulk, Cap, Thor. I guess we got Black Widow, and then Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Wasp. But when we think of Hawkeye, we're like, oh, him, the Arrow dude. That's why I don't think Hawkeye gets much appreciation. But I definitely appreciate the character a lot. But this comic also explores his first appearance in a comic book. That's what I just discussed earlier, which I thought was awesome. We also see him have his own little adventure where he quits the Avengers for a bit, but then I assume later he does come back. We also get some issues about Mockingbird where we see like a black and white issue of her. I think it could be her first appearance. I'm not sure. But we also see her team up with Spider-Man, which I thought was cool. We need to get some Spidey action. I assume this was part of a series of issues where Spider-Man teamed up with some random hero. But Mockingbird was definitely one of them, for sure. So I definitely give these issues probably an 8 out of 10. It's definitely old school Marvel, for sure, through the artwork. I think Marvel has gone a long way since their changed artwork. But for its time, it definitely looks iconic and nostalgic for a lot of people back in the day. But in the future, I will definitely review the Hawkeye graphic novels, issues 1 through 4. I think there's 5 and 6. I haven't read them, but 1 through 4 I definitely have read. So definitely be on the lookout for that and more for comic reviews. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.